will optimize your ads between them. So if you have not ever done it, it's a pretty self-explanatory tutorial that you can walk you through, and they do it in question format. They don't say, do you want to post on Facebook or Instagram? They talk about what are your goals, what are you trying to achieve? And then they have a very sophisticated dashboard that tells you the results. So at the end of the day, you may not care whether it's Facebook or Instagram. You can push it that way, but that gets into the sophisticated settings. But more that they're going to optimize your results. It is an incredibly powerful engine that's based on measuring results and measuring effectiveness. Part of the reason it's such a valuable company. Okay, so Twitter's a little different. Ads based on who you follow, with a little insight into who you are. There's two things that you can do on Twitter that are a little different. So you can promote tweets. So they'll say it's a promoter tweet, but it's going to show up right in your line. The other thing you can do is you can insert yourself into a trending topic. So it's not just here's the folks I follow and it pops down, but if I start looking at trends, I can insert my company into that trend. So I'm trying to think of an example of something that may be trending that maybe want to insert myself into. I don't know if you guys have been following what's going on with the San Francisco's 49er football player Colin Kaepernick. So if you were say somebody who sells American flags, you may insert yourself into that conversation with a promoted trend to say, hey, show Colin Kaepernick we like America, buy my flag. Depending on where you stand on that discussion, they may want to say that. So that's interesting that you can put yourself into a trending conversation and promote yourself that way. What's interesting about Twitter is they're becoming a full suite of services. So they're not just video, they're not just images, they're not just text. They started as text only and growing from there. But you can do almost everything on Twitter that you can do on all these other sites. And part of this is they tried to acquire and buy all these other things. They didn't have the ability or maybe the stomach to do it. So they're building it all. So Microsoft and Facebook and Google was able to buy into this. Twitter's building it all themselves. So it's really interesting to watch them continue to grow this platform. Oh, by the way, and Twitter owns Hootsuite. So even though it operates separately, they make it possible for you to do all these things. And it's interesting, they make a tool that makes it easy to promote their competitors. So they got to be good. Okay. So when you're thinking about your campaigns, we first think about I want an action right now, but I just want to give some other reasons people may use these social media campaigns. One I really like is pricing. So you may have a product, you don't know what the price is. This is a common thing for folks. So one way I've seen people effectively use it is buy an AdWords campaign and have either in the ad or on different landing pages the price of your product and see how people react. And that can be very informative for you. Branding and naming, I'll tell you a quick story about Tim Ferriss's book, The 4-Hour Workweek. You guys heard of this book, Tim Ferriss? Anyway, he's a guy who wrote a book called The 4-Hour Workweek. It's all about how to outsource your life and spend more time doing things you love and less time doing things you don't. Well, when he finished that book, he had about 4 or 5 names he thought were pretty good. So what he did is he did an AdWords campaign to see who clicked on it the most. Which of these book titles had the most impact? And suffice it to say, he figured out which one, but he was able to put data to something he didn't have data for before. So instead of asking a bunch of people, what do you think? Through a very small priced AdWords campaign, he was able to get hundreds of people to react to his name. Campaigns like this are interesting for competitive research. So I mentioned it's a bidding system. Well, you get to see what your competitors are bidding on, including, by the way, your brand name. So one of the things, and this is what just drives people nuts, if you're running an AdWords campaign, you may actually have to run ads, pay for ads on your own name, on your own company name. Because if you don't, your competitors will. And so if I wanted to open up Brad's coffee shop across the street here, I would buy words around the Harvest Cafe in Montour Falls. And when you search for that and you just click on the first thing, you may go over to my cafe. It's a simple example, but you can see how this can, you can see what your competitor's up to. It's also interesting to see maybe how much they care about something. So they may be promoting certain features and functions of their product or service. You'll get information back on, I can't remember the point I had of the buying process, I apologize for that. You can get a lot of information about demographics of who your users are, particularly on Facebook and Instagram. And then if you're going to expand into new markets, this can be a great way to do that, to sort of test the interest of those markets. And I'll tell you another quick story about this. A friend of mine, a Canadian-based business, and he was thinking about expanding to the US, but he wasn't sure. So he threw up a web page, and he writes audiobooks. He said, I'll just do a quick AdWords campaign and see what kind of response I get. And so he threw it up. He had it running for about 6 hours, and he already had 45 people sign up in 6 hours. Like, shut it down, shut it down, shut it down. Okay, people want this in the US. If I can get 45 customers from a company they'd never heard of, and all he had was a simple landing page. He's like, I have 45 people waiting to sign up, or who did sign up. He had to refund them the money and tell them, sorry, they're not ready yet. But he had 45 people in 6 hours say, well, we want to do this. So it was a great validation. He used that same technique as he expanded into other markets, which led him to not expand into those markets. So interestingly, he got great response in the United States, and he was able to, from this customer data, also figure out where in the United States. So many people listen to audiobooks in their cars. California was a big area for him. As he looked at going to Europe, he was surprised at how little of a response he got in the United Kingdom. They don't like audiobooks, they don't spend time in cars, I don't know. But the United Kingdom was not a rich market for him, but eventually more than half of his company's customers, when he profitably sold the business to a private equity firm, he had 25,000 customers, and half of them were in California. Who knew? But he figured that out from here. Just a few other places I didn't know where to put these things. So AdWords, I mentioned all these phrases. If you're doing AdWords, it'll suggest phrases for you based on information you give it. There's a free tool called Google Trends, so you can search different trends that may be of interest to you. What shrubbery is popular this year? Let's figure that out ahead of time. What are people and Google Trends tells you what people are searching for. And this may inform you as to the type of tweets or posts that you want to make. So you see a trend in people posting things that, I'll keep picking on Lee, deer-proof vegetation, that she may start posting things about deer-proof vegetation. And I like this one a lot, the typographical error generator. So another place you can buy ads really cheap is on typographical errors. People are really bad at typing. And so
something that's close is going to take you to your site.
That's right. And you can also do this, by the way, on your competitors. Right? So let's say I misspelled Harvest Cafe and I spelled it Havrest Cafe. I buy that AdWord, they come to me. That one's a very cheap AdWord. So give you an idea, so my first company was called SiteSpeed. So Lightspeed, anybody familiar with Site, S-I-G-H-T, Speed. We had 36 misspellings of our own company's name. So put it in an extra E, so speed with 3 E's. People transpose the G and the H all the time. We had this tool that suggested typographical errors, and that works in your favor. And with these devices getting smaller and smaller, typographical errors are certainly on the rise. So that's just another tool. So that's a little bit about paid. So I talked about overview of the sites. I talked about how paid stuff works. And I want to retouch on a subject I've mentioned here before, which is public relations, because I think it really goes hand in hand. I view social media as an extension of what we've been doing with public relations for a long time. It's simply a new platform where, in many ways, you can disintermediate the user. But the flip is true: is you want other people to pick up the conversation that you're starting. So we often use this shorthand PR. Public relations is strategic communications that builds mutual beneficial relationship between, this is just ABA speak. So I think this is probably more interesting. Using the news or the business press or others to carry positive stories about our company. And I like this quote here: if I was down to my last dollar, my marketing budget, I'd spend it on PR. So startups are really good at using PR. And what this means is, letting other people tell the story for you and making it as easy as possible for them to do so. So this could be testimonials. It was get people. You may have seen things like this. It's a version of asking people to promote for you. So you got to be really careful about explicitly asking, but getting others to talk to you, get others to talk about your stuff. I was watching the America's Got Talent, and one way you can vote is by tweeting about hashtag AGT, America's Got Talent. So America's Got Talent has got all these people on social media promoting their television show. And I just read that America's Got Talent was the highest rated show of the summer. And so they really effectively uses social media in their favor by getting other people to talk about their stuff. The other thing you want to identify is influencers. So these are people who others are paying attention to. So if you can get an influence in your space, and it doesn't have to be just some famous person like Cristiano Ronaldo, it could be a world famous botanist that people follow. If you can get them talking about your stuff on social media and retweeting your things, that can be really powerful. And bloggers, particularly, these are folks, there's a lot of people out there who are blogging about a very specific subject, and you want to get them talking about you. And so that's what PR is about. So how do you go about doing that is, I find it's really helpful to make it easy for them to write stories about you. So the best example I can give is, I was interviewed once by the San Jose Mercury News, and that's important because that's the physical paper, was the physical paper that Silicon Valley read. And so I got interviewed by the reporter from San Jose Mercury News. After the interview, I wrote an email in text format, which is important, and said, here's what we talked about. Just to recap, here's what we talked about, and mailed it to the reporter. And wouldn't you know it, the article looked almost exactly like my email, because I'm pretty sure what the reporter did is to copy, paste, change the intro, change change one or two things. It was largely my article. And that turned out to be really useful because the people from Yahoo called the next day. And they clearly read about my article on San Jose Mercury News. So making it really easy for them to write about you. Another way you can do this more generally is by providing assets. Most people do this to their website. And so this is providing assets to bloggers or Instagrammers or Facebookers or whoever, people who are wanting to generate attention to what they're doing. You give them these things. And so here's just some examples of what it looks like. If you have a product, have a bunch of high quality pictures on your website. A lot of sites will actually have an assets page, is what they call it, assets. Really nice product photos in different formats. Provide them different versions of your logo. This is Juniper Networks. I think this slide's out of place, but it just, do you try to capture emails when people come to your site? When specifically have a different email capture for your assets page. Who's coming to your assets page? Because you're going to want to be able to reach back out to them. If you see the WSJ email address, you guys know what WSJ? Wall Street Journal. So if you see somebody from Wall Street Journal is cruising around your website looking at your assets, and you're going to want to get in touch with that reporter. So treat this differently than your customers page. Capture the email for your assets page. Provide bios. I may not be able to tell here, but one of those pictures is black and white, one is color. So understanding the different needs of your customer, or excuse me, your people you're trying to promote to. So you can also use Twitter to go find these folks. So you can use to look for journalists. You can find out who the influencers are and follow them. Make it easy for them to retweet your stuff. Anytime people time people do post about you, like their stuff, retweet their stuff, because that helps them raise their profile. You can thank people, and I find if you use images, I will tell you my trick to images is the more interesting the picture, the better. So just a picture of the founder sitting around looking at the camera, not interesting. So if you've got some interesting angle, one version of that is you just take those same people and you're writing about the people, find some place interesting or somewhere interesting they can stand. And you guys know the website Donors Choose. Are you familiar with Donors Choose? anyway, it's a mission-driven business that focuses on putting educational resources into elementary schools and primary schools of that nature. Well, their CEO had this great photo, I still remember it from years ago. It was a picture of him standing in front of a green chalkboard, and they had hung a bunch of number 2 pencils on, I guess, fishing line, but they were invisible. It looked like they were just floating. So it looked like he was standing in this sea of yellow number 2 pencils in front of a green chalkboard. I thought, wow, what a way to punch up a boring picture. If it was just him standing in front of a chalkboard, that's boring. But him standing in this sea of pencils, all it took us, it probably cost him nothing to do this, but just a clever picture. So thinking about clever images can go a long way, particularly with these visual mediums like in Instagram. And if you are going to use promotion, make sure you add value. And private links, this gets a little micro, but when you go into these tools like Hootsuite, you can section out certain topics that you only want to follow separately. So if you're following 500 people, you're really following nobody. So you can have these private lists of these are just people who write about I don't know, 3D printing. Or these are people who just write about azaleas, whatever it may be. So have these private segmented lists. I didn't really know where else to put this, so I want to put it in here. This is a company out of Ithaca. They just ran a successful Kickstarter campaign for a $100 ballpoint pen. So they said the world's best ballpoint pen. And one of the things that they did is they provided a ton of high-quality images in their assets page. And they got a lot of people to Twitter and write about them by providing them these unique images. And so if you scroll through the page, you can see all these images that got picked up. And so the last tool I'll mention here, these are 2 separate tools, PR Web and Thundercloud. So PR Web is a paid PR press release. This is different than public relations. This is a press release website. So if you have some event or something that you want to promote, it actually behooves you to pay approximately $150 to go through their process. The nice thing about this is it's curated, and then they will put your press release out there through channels that you would not otherwise be able to reach. And so it gives it a legitimacy and a reach that's pretty extensive. And it hits all of them at the same time. And that's important too, because it creates this surge. When you talk about trends, when you're doing social media, particularly around a subject, you want a big surge around important events. And that's where the modern version of that is Thunderclap. Thunderclap is a service that allows people, it's how do I explain it? Whereas Buffer, you can schedule your posts from your own social media at a certain time. Thunderclap allows you to do the same with other people's social media. So people say, hey, please, you get people to use Thunderclap, they will post about your product or service at a set future time. So if you're about to do a Kickstarter campaign, you're going to do a lot of work ahead of time to say, let's say it launches today, the 14th, launches today, launches tomorrow. Everybody to start posting on their social media on the 15th about your thing. Well, you don't want to wait till the 15th to get them to do it. Using Thunderclap, you can have them agree to post at some future date all at the same time. So you have 100, 200 people all posting simultaneously. That creates a groundswell, which can lead to a trend. Okay, I know I covered a lot of territory here and I talked sort of fast. Before we go to open mic, any questions about social media, paid, PR?
So if you're if you're someone that perhaps has a business that you know you need to be on social media, but you really don't know where to start, how do you start?
How would you start? I would start with Buffer. Well, no, so you got to create accounts. So create accounts on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And then once you do, you can log into all of them through Buffer one time, and then using Buffer, whenever you post, it'll put out to those others. And the other thing Buffer will give you is analytics. They will give you the analytics back as to what's effective. And if that's too intimidating, just start with Twitter. Just get on Twitter. All right.
is there any studies or data on which industries leverage, or which social media platforms are